So, obviously, Sunday was a day to reflect back on what we did, offense, defense, special teams, after a win, right? So I think the teaching moments are so much better after a win than they are after a loss. Just a little bit bigger ears, more open eyes, a lot of different things for our guys to learn. I thought they handled that very, very well. We honored the guys that did. Obviously, today we're still learning of different awards, so I thought I'd give you guys a little tidbit. One of the things we want to do going to Penn State, we wanted everybody to be in a certain look: orange hat, white jerseys, orange pants, and blue gloves. Before the game, I'd made a point about that in our program. All offensive skill players, if you're going to handle the football, you don't wear sleeves, right? I knew it was getting a little bit colder out there. Guys that wear sleeves have a tendency to make the ball a little bit more susceptible to come out or be a little bit slick. We actually had a player Thursday during practice that was running a kickoff return as a look team player, and he had the sleeves on. He's a little Florida-born player, and he hit a nice run, nice KOR return, and he was down the sideline just running. All of a sudden, the ball just squirted out of his hands. So I took that play clip and showed it to him on Friday, explaining why we have this rule, right? I've been in this business a long time. I've been in some cold weather games. I was in the NFL. Saw two organizations that had the same rule. If you're an offensive player, you don't wear sleeves. And the reason we wear blue gloves is to match the jerseys of an opponent we might be playing that has a blue jersey on, right? So it all makes sense. I come up before the game, and George McDonald comes to me and says, Coach, Casey Washington doesn't want to wear blue gloves. I look at Casey, and I said, why is that? He's like, Coach, I didn't get in time to break them in. I really want to wear my white gloves. And those of you that have talked to Casey in moments of anxiety, he's looking very deep into your soul, right? So I got Coach McDonald, who's kind of an authoritarian type receiving coach. He's upset that the blue gloves aren't on. We're moments before kickoff. I got to make an administrative decision to the moment. So I looked at Casey and I said, you need the white gloves. He said, Coach, I need the white gloves. Obviously, 60 minutes later at 9 overtimes, I'm glad I gave him the white gloves. And those gloves are now being shipped to the College Football Hall of Fame. After the game, they wanted some memorabilia. Right after the game, Bret came up to me and said, hey, College Football Hall of Fame would like some things from the game. They wanted my hat. I wear the family hat before the game. Sometimes I wear it home after the game. I'm like, they ain't get my damn hat. I love that hat. It's been with us since our first recruiting visit, and it means a lot to me, so it kind of has a soul and a purpose. But I do got a pair of white gloves that we'll send you. So now those famous white gloves, no one knew that story but me at that time. So those white gloves are now headed to the Hall of Fame. In case you got to find a new pair of gloves, they'll probably be blue. But really excited about this week's opportunity. I think the greatest thing that we can do is continue to take this program and advance it forward. I think the important part out of Saturday is obviously to get the win, to have the 9 overtimes and all that goes into it. I think that game was earned. I really do believe that our guys, I challenged the guys all week for the 74 players hopping on that plane, the coaches that were going over there with us, the support staff that we were going over there with one intent to win the football game. We're not going to play in a game, we're going to win a game. And I don't think anybody on that sideline, at least on our sideline, was surprised by the result. I said that to them at halftime, was very emphatic about that. And to have that faith for nine overtimes to replace an offensive tackle who, in my opinion, is probably one of the better players in this league, to replace a running back that went down during the course of the game, to replace a quarterback that went down during the overtime fanatic, and to have a returning quarterback to come back off the bench and throw the game-winning 2-point conversion speaks of volumes about what this is. You have a defense that played extremely well, 2 inside linebackers who didn't even start in the first game. The 2 starters, Jake Hansen and C.J. Hart, have now been removed from the year, and to have those guys step into those roles, the law firm of Newton and Randolph, those guys, the way they played inside was just incredible with their extension, their hands, and Isaiah Gay, we actually gave him an MVP honor with just the way he played and really set the tone out there. So a lot of really good things. Now we jump into the Rutgers prep. We put that game to bed a little bit early yesterday. I wanted to move that behind him for 2 reasons. First off, a lot of respect for the victory and what they earned, but I also wanted them to put that behind them because there hasn't been a great amount of success over a period of time. These guys haven't learned that the expectation is what happened Saturday, not the exception, right? Like, congratulations, you did your job, now let's go forward, right? So we put to bed the game really quickly last night, and moved into our Rutgers preparation, a team that is obviously 3-4, won their first 3 games, has faced a pretty daunting Big Ten schedule, have played very, very well against them. Unfortunately, they weren't able to have the success at the end with a victory, but in the infancy of their program, I know Coach Chiano very well. You can see the strides they've made and the way they're playing, so got a tremendous amount of respect for them, offense, defense, special teams. They have a punter that probably will rival Blake for his effectiveness and be able to affect the game and control it. An offense that's very similar to us in the fact that they are trying to be physical, run the ball. I know that's not the numbers they wanted, but you see the emphasis on it there in the throw game defensively. The defense coordinator and I have worked together a long time. I've worked with Greg at the New England Patriots, so I know a lot of coaches, Bob, on their staff. Know a lot of players and coaches. A lot of coaches on that staff that I've either worked with or been around my entire coaching career. So a lot of close ties. I'm excited about the opportunity and really excited to get back here in Memorial. I know everybody is trying to find different ways to get them here. I'm just going to make it emphatic. I'd love to have as many people in Memorial as we possibly can get. I think our guys feed off the emotion, especially that student section. The way they've showed up every time has been a big part of why I think we've played well at home. And I know that last game at home, homecoming wasn't the way we wanted, but I promise you we're a team that's getting better every week, and you're going to enjoy watching us play. So with that, open it up for questions.
What does a win like that against a top 10 team mean for you as a first-year coach, and what's it mean for the program, and then what's it mean from a recruiting standpoint?
Yeah, I get it. They're all wins matter, especially when you're trying to get to a point of relevancy. I do think that to be on the road to play against Penn State, I know how tough it is to win there. We talked all week about it really wasn't any team from our past or their past that was going to show up on Saturday. It was about the 11-on-11 at any given time. So it's all positive. And in today's world, right, if anything we learned coming out of this monumental press conference last Monday, right, perception is reality. And in today's world, I think you have to grasp anything that's a positive thing can be hugely beneficial for not just in your program with your players, but in recruiting. But I will tell you this, and I just had Taz and Spoon just came in my office. So 2 very entertaining, enlightening corners came in, and they just, Coach, we just want to see how you're doing, right? So they sat down, and I explained to them that although Saturday was a great thing for them, it was a great thing for our program, what I was happy for is, like, I haven't been able to meet Spoon's family. I haven't been able to meet Taz's family. But my guess is when they were able to call home to them, they were very excited. Like, as a father now, even though it's 2 small girls, one of the great things I have comfort in is when you can make them feel good with things that you can't buy for them, right? Things that you can provide for them. And when you can't, when they have to do it on their own, there's nothing more fulfilling than that moment. And I think that there was probably a lot of happy families with the way that the kids played and the outcome of that game more than anybody. And that's one part. That's one group that I was happy for.
All the scheming but all the talk of the schemes and the things you did and the execution. What role did willpower and emotion have in that win?
I get it. I understand the question. Like I told those guys, you're going to have an offensive plan, a defensive plan, and a special teams plan going into that bye week. I thought Wednesday during our bye week was probably one of the most intense, better practices we've ever had since I've been here. So I think they just keep chopping wood. They keep just doing the things that we've asked them to do. They're very, very engaged with their coaches, without a doubt across the board. Anytime we give position meeting time to our players and our coaches, it seems to be very beneficial, individual time. The game of emotion is also very, very big on game day, but it's more of a reflection that Saturday was what we see every day in this program. Yes. Okay. So a couple injury updates. Art, unfortunately, did break his arm. We'll actually have surgery, I think, tomorrow. I'm sorry, today's Monday, Wednesday. He'll have that, so he'll be done for the year in that regards. But something that'll be even come to a shock to probably about 99% of our team. Asked Art to share this. So when Art first got here, as he began to go through things, you began to see that maybe he wasn't throwing the ball as effectively as he maybe thought he was at one point and did. And so it was brought to our attention that he was in need of a shoulder surgery at some point. He rehabbed it, did everything he possibly could do to get to the beginning of the season, but we knew at some point he was going to have to undergo surgery. It would take about a 6 to 7 month recovery process. It was an injury that he sustained before he ever came here. And just give a tremendous. I can't tell you how proud I am of that kid, what he did to come in the way he did in Nebraska, to come in and do what he did and propelled us to wins, and obviously all the way down to that final play the other day, knowing that he isn't, whatever percentage it is, it's not anywhere close to 100%. So the struggle that I had, that we sat down during the first bye week, was, when do we have this procedure? When do we get this done, right? And knowing that it was going to be a 6 month, 6 to 8 month procedure. When do we do this that lets him maximize his opportunity this season, but also gets him ready for next season? And so he and I had kind of come to the conclusion we would make a discussion during the first bye week, which we got through. We were going to wait until the second bye week, and then ultimately make a decision, if we didn't do it during the second bye week, if we would do it, first or second, 1 or 2 weeks remaining in the season, just so we could maximize his recovery time. So sometimes blessings come in the most unusual ways, but now with this surgery getting done on his left hand, as soon as that gets healed up enough, hopefully in about 2 to 4 weeks, then he'll have surgery on his right shoulder. Unfortunately, it'll knock him out of spring football, but he'll be back hopefully engaged with us full time for the fall. So his teammates didn't even know. He didn't want to have anybody aware of that, or he just wasn't as good as he knows he possibly can. And to get him 100% throwing, that's what we have to do. So that's the challenge he'll have. Chase Brown, after his injury on Saturday, has already passed all of the tests that he needed to pass. He's actually biking today. Tomorrow he'll be in practice, no contact. Wednesday he'll be able to receive contact, and he should be good to go. Cleared Wednesday afternoon, Thursday. If all progresses normal, he'll be good to go. Vidarian Lowe was very, very good Saturday night after the flight back. Sunday looked well. He's progressing in the right direction. I think he'll be with us on Saturday. If not, it shouldn't be any much more than that week. And really everybody else, other than a few normal bumps and bruises, and guys played 100 snaps on offense. It was kind of tale of two cities, right? Usually your snaps marry one another, and the defensive guys had almost 35 in case, sometimes 40 less snaps than the other side of the ball. So kind of a just practice as we look at it this week to kind of fit that as well.
Right. Some positional changes coming out of the bye week. The swapping of Pearl and Poucher was noticeable. Just when goes into a decision like that, that you think it'll work, and how it had so much success on Saturday.
Yeah, great. So I think one of the things that I've always prided myself on as a head coach is try to put your players in the best position to be successful. And Pouch has been very impressive since I've got here about the basic core concepts and fundamentals of what an offensive lineman has. But I'd always kind of thought, and we'd actually experimented with the issue we had is we didn't get him for the spring. We didn't get him for most of the fall. So we put him in at guard. He just wasn't comfortable. We wanted to get our best 5 offensive linemen in the field. That's why I put Pearl back inside the guard. And then really after the Wisconsin game, Sunday in staff meeting, I said, hey, this is what I see. This is what I'm going to do. Let's flip them. Explain to them both why that happened, and both of them played, probably as well as they have played this year. So I give Bart Miller a lot of credit for getting those guys ready to play, the fundamentals to do it, because it is a different game. I know everybody just thinks it's offensive line play. Guards, action happens quicker, faster, and stronger. Tackles create more space, more speed, and more edge. So it's completely two different things. And to have the bye week in there I knew was the only chance we had to do it.
Coach, you talk a lot about tough, smart, dependable in your players, and you want that. How much does Art Sikowski's willingness to not tell his teammates about his shoulder define being dependable and being tough inside of your program?
Probably one of the most rewarding things you can do as a coach is get to know your players, right? So I knew Art Sikowski from a couple clips that I saw on him on film, from reading some articles about him, from having other people tell me about him, right? Chris Ash, who's one of my best friends, reached out to me and he recruited Art personally. And then the first phone call I had with him, I don't know if I just talked to Art or his dad or his grandpa. I just talked to somebody who was very mature, right? I knew that. And then just to be around him on a daily basis, his presence, the players love just his communication skills. But he's a very selfless person. He's all about the team. And it's what he wanted. It's what he wished. I even told him at the time, if that's something he wanted to do the surgery right then, I'm capable. This is about making you the best you. That's what we kind of always said. I just knew for me as a head coach, I wanted to get him in a position to have his remaining eligibility be as good as he possibly could, and that was going to come through surgery, right? And he just chose to keep his head down and grit. And then I think this week especially, right? Like I know you guys are aware of it. This game means a lot to him, right? Like because of who he is and what he represents. The outside world is going to think, oh, I feel bad for Art Sikowski because he doesn't get to play against Rutgers. If we were playing reversed order, right? Like if we were playing Minnesota this week and Rutgers next week, he would be as equally devastated to not play against Minnesota. Rutgers has nothing to do with it. He enjoys the spirit of the game. He enjoys the spirit and the intensity of what it means to play the game, and that's what makes him special.
How long has Alex Pilstrom been repping tackle, and what do you see out of him?
Yeah, so when we took Pouch and moved him inside, I wanted to give us the best options at outside. So that meant moving Pill to the tackle position. And to his credit, he had worked primarily at right tackle because him and Pill, JP, so we put Pill over at right tackle and we moved Pearl over to left tackle, to get some reps. We really, heaven forbid, I don't mean to say this, right? We just don't have the numbers that we need to have at the offensive, so to conduct practice. So we kind of had been moving bodies around, and Pill had done a lot of really good things at right tackle. He had gotten minimum reps at left, and when the decision, when V went down, I went out to always, like I said last week, I go to check on our players, right? So I'm out on the field, and I said, V's going to be down for some time here. He may come back in, but he's down. And Bart goes, I'm going with Pill at left. He knew right away what he's going to do, and it worked really, really well. And they adjusted things during the course of the game. Again, I give a lot of credit to Pill and his teammates. Like there was an instant rally around him. Jarasati got jumped into the barge package, right, because of that, and Blake went in, was absolutely phenomenal from barge to field goal protection. Those last couple kicks, if we don't execute them, we don't have a chance to get to the ninth overtime. And they were running right over the guard tackle gap, and Blake and Verdis Brown of all people, right? Like we lose V Low. And now Verdis, who's now on offense as an inside nose tackle, goes in and plays tackle on field goal protection and doesn't miss a beat. As coaches, whenever you have one substitution, it affects everything in the bigger picture and kicking game. And I remember Reggie Bain, our offensive grad assistant, when we scored our first touchdown after V went down, I remember Reggie going, hey, Verdis on field goal. And I turned around, and as I was turning, I saw a wide body running in front of me. I didn't have to say anything, and he was already running out there. Like, he was wired into that. And that's what we talk about all the time. That's probably why when we were flying out on Friday, I told our players, when we have success tomorrow, don't be shocked, right? And I've said that to a couple times this year because I could see and feel and understand what was happening in our building, and the result was what you saw on Saturday.
Right, in 2021, to be running 9 people on the line of scrimmage is very different. What is the impetus behind that, and what can it be moving forward for you guys? Like, how big of a part of it can be?
Yeah, so that formation is something I've used in the past at different spots I've been to. During the bye week, I just felt there were some things we needed to do to maximize our personnel, kind of what we do best, and that's why we went to it. And it's something to get 7 linemen on the field. It gives our chance for some of our wideouts to get a breather. I think it's a unique aspect because defensively it puts you in a decision if you want to sub people or how you want to play it. I knew in this first game there'd be a certain like I kept saying, like, listen, you don't know how they're going to line up. I don't know how they're going to. They don't know how they're going to line up because they haven't seen it, right? So there's that element to it, but I think it just gives a demeanor to our guys. You can see it make. If you read our guys in the media, right, like they're definitely loving the comments, and I think that's the part as a head coach I'm always trying to engage. Just like this week, you try to engage, a guy like Carlos Sandy, who's just kind of continued to jump out to me, like any way we can engage him. Isaiah Williams, the more he touches the ball, the better we're going to be. Casey Washington to come up with that catch. I love to show social media clips, or Pat Pearson takes pictures all day long, and so that week I'd shown a picture of Miles Scott making a catch at practice, and if this is the ball, he's like literally got his triangle going. He's catching the ball with his eyes just as much as he is with his hands, and Miles has been one of the most productive players in our practices. And I showed that clip, and all the guys in the meeting were like, oh. And I'm like, is there any doubt that you see what I see? Because practice habits become game day reality, and that's kind of the morphosis of what you're saying to that formation. I saw a lot of offensive linemen trying to get on the field, and it gave them an opportunity to do that, and hopefully continues to work.
How much does identity matter, and how much does that help build that? Because it feels like you guys running the football, defense has been sound. Feels like you've built that the last 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Even if wins haven't come.
I did stress, so it may sound silly to you guys, right? But like when we do team meals and we travel on Friday and Saturdays, we'll always say a prayer. So Isaiah Williams will give a blessing, or Coach Henry will give a blessing, and then they all sit down. And then because I don't want to have 100 or 75 people rush the chow line, I excuse them by groups, right? So everybody's always really, so if Isaiah does really well at his prayer, which you usually do, I'd say, hey, wide receivers get to go eat, right? But I mean, they're the littlest people in the room. They're probably the least hungry. So like on Friday night at our team meal, I specifically remember saying O-line, D-line first, and everybody kind of laughed, and they all good up. I said, the game's going to be one up front. That's what I said Friday night pregame meal because I just knew that that's the way the game was going to play. And the kickers and specialists ate last. But they probably should have ate about halfway through because they were a big part of the game. But that's the kind of stuff that identity does matter.
Going back to Brandon, the quarterback, back then, is there anything more or different you need from him?
I was glad that BP got in and threw that, game-winning strike, right? I mean, it was a nice throw. Actually, the two before that, he threw one in there tight to Luke. Didn't get in there, but it was a hell of a throw. So I think that Ryan Johnson's got a lot of reps. Isaiah Williams, Deuce Span. Like there's been a lot of guys that have played quarterback in our system. Matt Robinson. So I think the more you have at that position, the better you are. And I think each one of them carries a little bit different brand of football. Especially Deuce. He's been playing a little bit of wide receiver for us, but I like what he brings in the game. Anything that we can do to continue to build that position, the better we'll be.
Is there any thought perhaps for like an emergency situation to get an Isaiah, or do you practice snaps at quarterback, or is that?
Not so much. I think Isaiah, obviously, the growth he's had at wide receiver, he's really 7 games into, 8 games now, right into a wide receiver career that's been going really well. It's kind of like it's the same philosophy when V went down. If I would have when we lost V, if I would have moved Pearl over, you're moving 2 guys to satisfy one deficiency, right? So I think in the quarterback room, you like BP, you like Matt, you like RJ. I get the question on those other people, but just the fact that for us to consistently build offensively what we're building to, what we're recruiting to, what we're developing to, that's important.
What did Brandon face coming in kind of cold?
Yeah.
It's 7 overtimes.
Yeah.
And then to make the game.
Great question. And I think, really because the way, like I've gotten that question a lot about the overtimes, the way that the game laid out when he got hurt, obviously Art was down for a while, right? Because they were getting the air cast over there and had a lot of, so BP immediately radioed over, hey, get BP rolling. Let's get him taking snaps. Let's get him throwing because he had been sitting there throughout the game. But he's also played a lot of football too. So sometimes to knock when you've been there, done that, it doesn't take a while to get your juices going, your motor going. Because of the two-point format, there was quite a bit of time between each series. Even though it was going quicker than a normal 2-point, the longest transition was to take when we had the choice in field location, I was going down to away from the students. When they wanted, they were going to the students, right? And in my larger status right now, it takes me a while to get from one end to the other, right? So that I think that would be the only modification I would take in the 2-point or in the overtime was we should probably just stay on one end that we all mutually agree to. But I think that he was able to convert quickly. He was able to process the moment, and he understood all of those plays really before they were run. Like he'd kind of literally already run those either in a game or in a practice situation.
With the club on his hand, is that a long-term thing he'll be dealing with?
Yeah, I think 4 weeks. Sid's setting a record for games played in the club. In fall camp, he got hit just on it was the other hand, I guess. But yeah, it's a non-surgical issue. He had a little bit of freedom. They're trying to shimmy it down just a little bit. But I know he had to go full club for this game. I think the club might get less as he goes on, but it really didn't have a factor in his play. But yeah, it's something that's non-surgical.
Practice injury?
No, he had actually done it at the end of Wisconsin. I don't think he actually practiced during Wisconsin or during the bye week because he was dealing with that.
But you like the format?
I did like the format. Yeah, I've had a lot of people ask. I thought it was no, we won, so obviously I like it, right? But I saw a shot on Saturday night. I was sitting there, my wife and I, and they put up the 6 longest overtime games in college football history, and I've been a part of 3 of them. We had a long one against Auburn, we had a long one against Ole Miss, and then obviously this one was the longest. I've won all 3. I'm going to make that little asterisk as well. Unfortunately, we've got a lot of experience at it, and we've done fairly well.
I know we talked a lot about your history finding Josh McCray and that recruiting process, but for a freshman to come in and do what he did at Penn State and then at Purdue, is that something you saw film like, hey, this kid might be that freshman for me, or is the timeline accelerated? I guess just what you expected to where he's at?
Yeah, well, it was easy when you watch film on Josh. Like, he runs angry, right? Like, he's not an angry person when you meet him. He's like a very nice demeanor, but the kids call it the shoulder roll. Like, I didn't know what was going on, but like when he gets juiced, he starts rolling the shoulders a little bit. So the shoulder roll, anytime you see that happening, it's usually a good sign. That's when he's really gassed, ready to rock and roll. I think our kids feed off him. They know what he's doing. Chase is kind of a different style of runner, like that first barge play, it was almost a home run hit, because he can take it through, he can break some arm tackles. But Chase is kind of a quiet demeanor, except for one play against Virginia. But other than that, he's usually a pretty reserved, good demeanor. So I think those two both are quiet kids individually, 2 totally different personalities that come out on the football field.
Something you're getting at a tip at tight end that's unique that the rest of those guys just don't have that you're able to do, especially when you want to get physical.
Luke and DJ are kind of contrast. They're yin and yang at tight end, right? But Luke is kind of a blend of both. I think Luke is very dependable, reliable. He can play all 3 positions, as well as, Marquez. We actually started running 21 formations where he was at fullback. So Luke's kind of the backup at that role, as well as Kanena Udalaga played at that position as well. So was one of the position switches we made. We didn't play Kanena on Saturday because he's got 3 games under his belt. We want to make sure that the 4th one is the right one. Not sure if we want to quite burn a year yet, kind of see how he's handled it, but he's transitioned to fullback very well. So Tip kind of just is a jack of all trades, and extremely. There's a play early on where 17 is a really good player for Penn State, and he bucket stepped and got him turned and got him wedged out, and it was a big run inside, and that doesn't just happen. Like, I give Coach Miller a lot of credit, Ben Miller, for getting him ready to play.
Coach,
Yes, please.
Coach, what was it like to get the reception at the basketball game Saturday night?
Both receptions are awesome. Our families actually met us out at the airport, and I've never had that before. My two girls and Jen were there, and a lot of our family, some fans, so that was pretty cool. And then shortly after the game, Cassie had reached out to us at Penn State and said, would you guys have an interest? And I basically, we have an Illini council that's a position player at each group, and I just said, I told Mark Torresani, our chief of staff, just, hey, reach out. I don't want to make those get Saturday night, right? They just beat Penn State. Like, I was 20 at one point in my life too, right? Like, what do you want to do? So Mark set out the question to the Illini council, and literally my phone just started blowing up. Like, Coach, love to do it, want to do it, want to do it, want to do it. And it kind of just timed out perfect. I give a lot of credit to Cassie and her staff and the basketball and Brad to let that happen. It was an awesome moment for us. I know the players really enjoyed it. And just to interact with the fans, like I've said all along, like the part that I really enjoyed in this partnership when I came with Josh was like to build a sustainable, successful program for a long time. And every place I've ever been, the men's basketball and football have been a staple of those programs that build success for a long time. So obviously Brad and his crew have done it to the highest level and look to be on stage to do it again. So the more we can join partnership with them, I think it's good for everybody, fans included. Thought it was, my oldest one has sensitive ears. I don't know what's with that child. She just constantly covers her ears. She doesn't like loud noise. She didn't like the loud noise on the plane, and then I was holding her, and she was high-fiving guys in the hallway, but then she thought it was too loud. But then my youngest one, she thinks she's like a president-elect. She's given the one-hand wave at 2 years old. So it's kind of, as we all know, right, they're both always uniquely different. Thank you.